Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the latest from the campaign trail as well as the challenges ahead for President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump. And a warning for hikers after one fell off a waterfall in central Kentucky.
Plus, sunshine will stick around through Wednesday. Your first alert forecast coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Presumptive GOP nominee Donald Trump is expected to easily win his party's primaries in 5 states today, including Florida, where the former president cast his own ballot. This comes as President Biden, also expected to sweep the contests on his side, courts voters out west. CBS's Skylar Henry has more from the White House.
Presumptive GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump cast his vote in the Florida primary.
We need patriots. We need strong people in our country. Our country's going downhill very fast.
5 states held contests Tuesday, further teeing up the expected Biden-Trump rematch in November. Voters say their candidate is the right pick for America.
I voted for Donald Trump. I believe he's the only one who's willing to stand up for the Constitution as it was written.
Joe Biden, I think he's the only candidate that offers us freedom, democracy, and freedom for everybody.
Trump is experiencing a serious cash crunch for both his legal battles and his re-election campaign, while Biden is spending considerable amounts of money to reach 2 key groups of voters.
For our abuelos.
Biden's campaign is out with new ads this month, speaking directly to Black and Latino voters about his economic record and other issues. The president is on a 3-state swing to win back support among Latino voters, which recent polls have shown is diminishing. He told volunteers in Reno, Nevada, they're critical to a second term.
I'm confident. I'm confident we get our message out to the American people. We're going to win again. But here's the deal. You're the ones that are going to do it.
Biden has stops planned in Arizona, then heads to Texas for more fundraising. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
There will be more coverage on the campaign at 6:30 on the CBS Evening News. Yesterday, former President Donald Trump sued ABC News and anchor George Stephanopoulos for defamation. The suit is over a recent interview Stephanopoulos had with Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Mace, a South Carolina Republican who has endorsed Trump, is a rape survivor. Stephanopoulos asked her how she could justify endorsing Trump after a jury found he sexually abused writer E. Jean Carroll in 1996. Carroll was awarded $88 million in the case. House Democrats have selected a former associate of Rudy Giuliani to be their witness in an impeachment hearing for President Biden. The House Oversight Committee is set to meet tomorrow, and Democratic lawmakers have invited Lev Parnas to testify. Parnas has been convicted of campaign finance violations and lying to federal officials about it. However, he also worked with Giuliani to try and unearth dirt on Biden's dealings with Ukraine leading up to the 2020 race. A trade advisor to former President Donald Trump has turned himself in to a federal prison in Miami. Peter Navarro was sentenced in January to 4 months in prison for refusing to comply with a subpoena from the committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts rejected Navarro's bid to remain free while he appeals his conviction. Before self-surrendering, the former White House official addressed reporters.
That's prison. That's where they take your freedom. But as hard as it will be on me, and as hard as it will be on anybody who is in there, it's harder on their families. And this is who those Democrats have hurt.
Navarro is the first former White House official to go to prison after being convicted of contempt of Congress. An Arizona senator made a very personal announcement during a floor speech yesterday. Eva Birch will be getting an abortion after finding out her pregnancy is not viable. Birch has been pregnant for about 8 weeks. Arizona's abortion ban begins at 15. The mother of 2 had her first miscarriage 13 years ago and has had several other failed attempts at having children. She says the current laws muddy the waters, putting doctors and patients in difficult situations.
The last time that I had an abortion, I started to miscarry the night before it was scheduled to take place, and I was denied a procedure in the hospital because I was deemed not critical enough, in spite of the fact that my embryo had died and that my miscarriage had stalled.
The state Supreme Court is considering reinstating a law from the 1800s that would implement a near total ban, but abortion rights groups are trying to get a state constitutional amendment on the ballot that would allow abortions up to about 24 weeks. FBI Director Christopher Wray condemned 6 former Mississippi police officers convicted of torturing 2 black men. Wray said the officers put the men through hell in an atrocious violation of their civil rights. His comments at the University of Georgia came just hours after the first of the officers was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. The victims say the officers illegally entered their home and handcuffed, tortured, and tried to sexually assault them. Congress has requested documents from the University of California, Berkeley and its widening campus anti-Semitism investigation. The House Education Committee wants the school to turn over a trove of documents by April 2nd. In a letter, Congresswoman Virginia Fox, the committee's chair, cited the school's, quote, failure to protect Jewish students. She cited a list of incidents since the October 7th Hamas terror attacks on Israel.
Well, the weather is not bad on this Tuesday evening. We are a little bit cool. Temperatures should be in the upper 50s. Most of us today in the middle to lower 50s. But check out this live image from Buffalo Mountain from Perry County. Not a cloud in the sky as high pressure is the big story. And that will continue as we go into this evening. Up on first alert pinpoint Doppler. A clean sweep all thanks to high pressure to our south. But notice back to the north and west, we are tracking this cold front close to Chicago. No moisture with this system, but this will bring some more cooler air as we go into late Wednesday, also pushing into your Thursday. Right now, though, those temperatures a little bit below average. Most of us in the middle 50s, up to 54 in Hazard, 53 for Jackson, also in Pikeville, 56 over in Manchester for Clay County at this hour. Also tracking some breezy southwest winds gusting to 26 in London and 23 over in Breathitt County. As we go into this evening, once the sun sets, once again, we are chilly. Not as cold as last night, but still chilly. Lows as you wake up on Wednesday in the middle to upper 30s. We see some more near average weather tomorrow. But again, a cold front will bring some cooler conditions by Thursday. Those details in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. A man is recovering right now after a nearly 30-foot fall during a hike in Jessamine County. And as Mariah Congito reports, rescuers want you to know with warmer weather on the way, heating warnings on the trails could save your life.
First responders were able to get back into the trail where the man was and get him out to safety. They remind people to always stay on trails when they're hiking. When you stray off, it can turn into a very dangerous situation.
There's just a few feet between having a wonderful time exploring the outdoors and actually having a disaster.
That was the case Monday for a man who was hiking with a friend and decided to try and scale a cliff.
He was unprepared for the fact that if he slipped, he might be seriously injured.
Chris Campbell with the Jessamine County Fire District says they got the call around 5 p.m. He says first responders train extensively for these types of rescues.
We utilized a Stokes basket and a wheel and approximately 20 to 30 rescuers from 3 different departments.
It was no small task. Campbell says it's a dangerous trail and rescuers were putting themselves at risk to get to him.
He was in a spot where another 5 feet, he'd fall another 5 feet, we would have had to start looking at a high angle or steep angle rescue. And he was 50 feet away from the riverbank too, so he could have very easily fallen into the river and then it would have been a much more tragic outcome.
Once they got to him, Campbell says they were able to get him onto a UTV and then in an ambulance. Before your next hiking trip, Campbell says you have to do your research and let someone know where you are and when you think you might be back.
You have to know the area you're going to. You have to be properly prepared. You have to be honest with yourself. Are you really up to the task of taking on the environment that you're getting yourself put into?
Now, the man was taken to the hospital. The extent of his injuries are unknown. In Jessamine County, Mariah Congito, WKYT.
Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, your child enters the real world when they turn 18. One thing experts say you should teach them to help them prepare financially.
And we are chilly tonight to kick off the spring season. Those details after this break.